Came down here in 1998, looked around with no intentions of living here. Fell in love with the place and its beauty. Without water, we really can't even go a day. And you can buy land cheap all over Arizona, but what you'll find is there's no water. Our water is very deep and you can't reach it. So groundwater and the changes in how the community uses it has changed quite a bit, obviously, here. It's not anything new. Back in the 70s, 60s and 70s, our valley was very heavy in agriculture. The difference being that back then, financial pressures on farmers pretty much kept it in check. They could only afford to pump from so deep. Today, I say there's two things that have come together that have, I hope that our politicians will see and realize that the old Spanish water law no longer applies to today, and that is the turbine pump and big, very big corporate farming, where depth to water really isn't that great a concern to them, and they can afford to pump it from a depth way beyond what most small farmers can and what we as domestic users can afford to pump from. So the aquifer that we live in here is called the Wilcox Basin. It's a closed basin, which means there's no external sources of water except for the rain that falls within the mountain ranges that circumference our aquifer. When a mining company moves in, they're after one thing, and that's a mineral. It's often not one mineral, though. If they're after copper, believe me, they're also finding gold, lead, zinc, and they chase that mineral and they mine it, and a town grows up around it and is filled with people and jobs and opportunities. And when the mineral runs out, the mine closes, and that's where we see our ghost towns all over the Southwest. The difference between farming and mining, in my mind, is that farming depends on sustainability. It's usually a family that wants to pass something on to their children and their children's children. So it's in the interest of the farmer to grow something and to utilize the natural resources of the area in a way that is sustainable. You know, the stakes in this are incredibly high because without water, our land has no value, our homes have no value, our lifestyle won't exist, it cannot exist. But it goes beyond water, it goes beyond depth to water. It goes to the surface degradations that we're seeing. We're now the #1 county, according to Arizona Department of Water Resources, for subsidence. Our valley is sinking at 3 inches per year. It's sunk, some 9 feet in the last 50 years. This is serious. It affects all of us. Water can cause a lot of angst, a lot of division. But we need to talk with each other. We need to be frank with each other and honest. And we need to balance interests against public need, for lack of a better way to say it. And we need to come up with a way to return to sustainable use. What gives me hope for my future here is that I'm excited that I think there's a groundswell, a grassroots movement, and I don't use that term lightly. I'm not one of those, I'm not an activist historically. I think it's exciting that people are coming together, that they're beginning to recognize that we've got a very serious problem that's going to have to be solved and resolved. And I think, and I hope, because of that, that our political leaders will ultimately see and recognize that this is a very serious problem that we're dealing with. And together, I hope we'll make the right choices. I think we can. I don't think it's going to be easy, but I have hope that we can.